It's okay. We have to go, actually go live.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry.
That was a false start.
Yeah.
Now everybody's ready.
Come on, IT, gotta get in here, get us live.
You good?
Oh, he's got it out there, okay. All right, I guess we're live. So now minutes to approve for April.
Move them.
Second.
Second, did you get that?
Who moved it?
Jim? I think it was it Trish or
Yep.
Christine? Second, Christine.
Focus.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't know why you would be. All right, Janine had no update. As of now, we don't see her on the computer, so I'm assuming she's not coming, so. Kyle,
I've got nothing to add to my written report.
okay, anybody got any questions for Kyle?
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
Now you got me all pumped up.
Sorry. I appreciate your report. I was just curious about the Wasco market. You said that failed inspection against the customer.
Well, it was a brand new scale. They hadn't put into service yet. She called me as soon as it came in.
Okay.
So I went out and tested it, and they have a scale that works fine. They just wanted to update it, so it failed. So she's gonna send it back to the manufacturer, and then I'll go back out with it.
I was just curious, like, where it even came from, that scale, and,
It was an
where do
improvement
they make them?
all over the country. This would happen to be a Pennsylvania scale. So she'll just send it back to the manufacturer
Okay,
and get it repaired.
thanks.
Well,
Jim?
no, I'm good.
Anybody else for Kyle? None, all right, thank you. Gary?
Yeah, just a couple of things I'd like to update, call your attention to, on my, update. Number one, DSS is interested in the space, occupied by an OFA, so you guys make a decision on that, we're taking it out, we want to go in there. But they did express an interest to the chair, happy to do that. Just an update on the surplus furniture, all the county departments have, got what they want. I do plan on reaching out to the towns and villages just as soon as I get a full staff of people downtown. There's a struggle lately with people being ill and other issues. So as soon as that happens, I'm hopeful, maybe next week sometime I'll reach out. Under downtown updates, as I stated above, the downtown staff has been short staffed. I've been having difficulty filling positions. I've got 2 approved positions right now for part-time building mechanics, and haven't been able to fill either one of them with the candidates. What I'd like to propose to you guys and ask for guidance on, when I did the budget, I originally had budgeted for laborers as well as part-time building mechanics, but then last year, if you recall, I couldn't fill labor positions for $15 an hour. So I thought, well, that's why I decided to try to go with 3 building mechanics, but I can't get them either. So what I'd like to do, with your approval, is put in a resolution next month to hire 2 laborers at $16 an hour, see if I can get any help that way. I only have 1 budgeted, but I'd take 2 at this point if we could get them, and then as long as I stay under the budget for my part-time make people in the budget, that's what I'd like to do. That is, what I do that.
Anybody have an issue with that? Yep.
Is 16, these are part-time positions, will they ever, they're seasonal?
These are part-time positions, not seasonal. So they would have the option to work year-round. Wouldn't be too many hours, really. It would probably average 10 hours a week over the course of the year, because I'd have 2 of them instead of 1 if I could hire them. If I could only hire 1, if I could 20. Is $16 an hour? Maybe not. Here's what I'm basing it on. Doug was able to fill a few people at the park for 14, and mainly people that have come back for years and years. They're retired people. They're not interested in working anywhere else in the county, but for obvious reasons, they want to work at the park. It's a beautiful place to work, so Doug has that benefit. I couldn't hire last year for 15, so I tried 16. In my mind, I can't justify going to 17 because that's what poor Brian is trying to hire people for at 17 to do the highway work, which of course is worse than what I'm offering. So I thought try to be consistent and fair, I was gonna make it 16. Brian's not getting, I think he said he had two,
I looked again after we talked, I have 4 applicants.
he has 4 applicants. So I'm game to try 16 and do the best we can and keep struggling the way we are. I mean,
Are they civil service positions or?
No.
So they don't have to take a test or
there's no test, there's no benefits, it's strictly an hourly rate.
Excuse me. Brian, are your positions full-time or part-time?
part-time?
Gary, are these new titles? Are you?
No, it's the same,
abolishing
it's the same title. I had 4 positions approved last year. Those positions still exist. Right now, they're in they exist at $15 an hour. Our resolution would be establishing them at $16 an hour with your approval. But the positions already exist. The other thing that I am doing in the background right now, I've approached civil service about adding a job title to our options called building maintenance helper. That position exists in civil service, but it doesn't exist in the county. What I'm thinking is I could get people in as laborers and maybe say, well, they should maybe grow into this position, building maintenance helper, then a building maintenance mechanic. Maybe that will work. So I'm just doing anything I can to try to get people in.
Understood. So you have 4.
There are,
2 mechanics and 2 laborers.
right now I have 1 part-time building maintenance mechanic. I have the options to fill 2 more part-time building maintenance mechanics, but I can't find it. And I'd like to have the option of hiring 2 part-time laborers. And then whatever comes in first is the public. Again, part of this is because we don't have to make work crews anymore. That's been a real struggle for my people. And especially when I've got people out on illness and family medical leave and everything else, it makes it virtually impossible to keep up. That's why we get shoddy work up at the chairman's office. We try to get a TV functional for. We're doing the best we can.
You shouldn't be watching TV.
Well, it's a presentation.
Let's switch down.
It's a presentation screen.
Oh, presentation screen, okay.
Trish.
I'm good with that, on my end, if we stay within budget.
You guys can debate it again next month, but I'd like to bring it forward.
Trish.
I'm good with it too. I was just wondering if there was any opportunity for like a work experience with BOCES students or anything like that, or how advanced would the skill set need to be for these part-time positions?
Well, that's what I like about the labor position. The requirements are very, very small. So you just about anybody can do it. We are using 4 crew people, and we are wherever they're available. But we're also getting help from the summer youth from the program here. But they have limited amount of people that want to do the type of work that we want done. We want physical work, mowing grass, weed whacking, that type of stuff. That's what we need. And not many people are interested in doing that anymore.
So, on that note, what you just said, I'll be the bad guy in the room like usual. Is it that, you know, you drive around, there's help wanted signs all over the place, not just here, all over the place. So is it that, you know, we not paying enough or people just don't want to work? I mean, where's the limit? I mean, do we go, okay, we can't get them at 16, let's go to 20. I mean, is it an auction? We go to 25? I mean, where's the limit?
Well,
That the taxpayers are gonna pay for this
my-
because people don't wanna work.
And there's 3 issues here, not just the 2. There is the issue that I believe people don't want to work at all. There's an issue that we are not paying an hourly rate commensurate with the type of work that we're asking people to do anymore. And then, I mean, I even brought up, I'm concerned about losing the people that I've got in the CSEA full-time positions because we're not paying that much money. You know, if we lose the people we have, I don't know how we'll ever fill people. Maybe we'll have to contract out to get the work, I don't know. Then we'll be paying prevailing wage. I mean, I wish I had the answers. I'm trying things, but I wish I did have the answers. I can't say that, well, this is the answer to my problems. I hope it is.
Yeah.
I think that this is a situation where we need HR to take a global view of the county, all positions, not just your department, but, you know, if we need to talk about increases in order to attract and maintain employees. That may be something we need to think about really seriously for the county. So I don't know if it's right to just do it right now for this specific
Right.
position without opening that up.
I agree, it should, recently you folks did a non-bargaining salary assessment. The same thing should happen for bargaining, in my opinion. That is critical for the future of the county, in my opinion, to get the best employee and or decent candidate.
It seems we should be doing that now before the contracts are negotiated.
Well, the contract's all 4 months this year.
Perfect.
We've already met with CSA Greenwood. So that'll probably be starting in late summer for CSC. Actually, the sheriff's department is starting in a couple of weeks.
I did have one other thought on that, if you want to try to get my recommendation for a solution. CSA is a big union, it's not just here. I'm sure they've got numbers for what comparable positions are being paid right within their organization. Same thing with our other union organizations. And it's a matter of, because we're public, you can double check and make sure they're not just telling you whatever number they want. Just, say, okay, so you're saying this county does it? 2-minute phone call and you, yeah, that's what we pay.
So although I agree with what Lean's saying about having HR look at it, some will be over by the time the decision is made. I think we just don't move that fast. And we need to give the gentleman an opportunity. If he has 4 positions and only fills 2, and he stays within his budget, it gives him an opportunity at least these are part-time or summer help.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the way of that, but if we're doing that for you, we need to talk about the entire county. We need to talk about, let's be realistic. Like, everyone's hurting. Everybody wants to look at the work we're looking for. I mean,
Right.
So I'm just saying, we can do it simultaneously. We can,
The positions he's looking for, though, are not necessarily through CSAE or one of these.
No, these are not.
These are
They're not
not,
union.
so,
they're non-bargaining, they're county employees, but they're not.
right, but we have a salad of different people to deal with, so. The summer's gonna be short, or we'll just be having long grass, I don't know.
This is for your buildings, though. This is for not just seasonal.
Yeah, this is for buildings. It would also be for snow removal in the winter. Not that I minded, I was shoveling quite regularly last winter. You probably don't want to pay my salary for shoveling. I'm probably not quite as good as I used to be at doing it even, but I had to do it because otherwise people would be following. We can't have that.
Trish?
Have you looked at what other counties pay for these positions?
No, I have not.
Or,
My feeling is that I look at what's happening in our county. I have no control over the others, and I also look at what we are paying full-time people, and I don't want to send a message to them at this point. That's something you guys are going to be negotiating. You got to do that. I think with the parameters that we have, this is the best I think I can do. And I'm suggesting other options for the future, but this is what I want to try to do.
Hans?
So we need a resolution to,
Yes, I'll have to do a resolution. I was going to put that resolution through in June. I'd love to do it this month, but it's too late for this. So I'll present it for next month and we'll keep struggling for another month.
Doug, during the winter, grab a shovel and help.
I've used a snow blower, actually. I mean, I don't want to go off the gun show too much. Heated handles, enclosed.
Better idea than a really shovel.
No,
I have a slightly unrelated question. Do we know when the MA crews are gonna be able to come
Not
back?
until they fill the Melbourne correction officers.
Okay, so that's what we're waiting on for that,
They
okay.
don't, correction officers to take.
Okay, I didn't know if it was COVID related, that's why I was curious, okay.
Okay, the other thing, and just a pair of great news today. You guys passed resolution 96-22 approving $175,000 for a new, to upgrade the elevator at the historic post office. I had added $25,000 to the quote I got from Tyson Krupp in 2018. Well, I didn't add enough. It's gonna come to about $225,000 upgrade that elevator. So what I wanna do is just giving you a heads up, I'm gonna be coming to you guys for a resolution. And I guess my question is, do you want to take that out, add another $50,000 out of the ARP, A funds, or do you want to hit some other account?
What do we have in the old post office?
What do we have?
Yeah. What county?
The only county, people that are in the old post office right now is civil division. The rest of it's all court. Wick moved out. And well, Board of Elections. The Board of Elections does have quite a bit in there. Because they got all their machines in there and everything.
The civil's up on the third floor, there's only two of them. So it's, nobody else could use that room.
No.
Well, the reason I'm asking is,
The BOE's in the basement.
do we even keep the building?
I also heard that, there's not a huge footprint in there from the county, and it's reporting hundreds of thousands of dollars in that building. I don't know what the future looks like for that building, for future repairs.
There's a lot more masonry repairs coming also.
Never ending, because it's
It's
old.
never ending. You have to find somebody that was willing to accept it.
Right. We were willing to accept it.
Yeah. Somebody like us.
I just wonder what the city be having their courts in there, and at one point I know they were almost under a state mandate to expand their court area.
They still are, they're expanding it, they're remodeling it now.
So maybe,
They're actually building another whole court down the first floor.
maybe there's interest there.
I can't tell you that. I know they're expanding because they were.
Well,
Yeah.
well, you could say one thing. One of the courts is our court too, is our family court. That's kind of a county court, I guess. But I don't think those employees actually work for the county, they work, but it's a county court, I guess,
They're paid for by the state,
by the state.
and so are the guards.
That is the most expensive building per square foot. You guys are familiar with the Vineski report. It's every year it's the most expensive building. And I don't see that changing. Luckily, I'm glad we do rent it out.
Being that it's a historic building, are there grants available to help maintain this that we can be going after?
I'll be honest with you, I don't have time to look for grants.
Okay.
So I never tried to look for grants. Usually, grants aren't for maintenance. They're usually for some new program or new feature or something like that. But,
I just asked, because I know at the museum, we're a historic building, we often get grants for our capital projects, so I didn't know if that was something we
Usually
could.
there's preservation grants available for that type of.
Yeah,
I'm not, I can try to find time to look for them, but I've never looked.
okay.
I'm just being honest. I do have a little bit more time now than I used to with, not having to worry about the parks anymore. So that will help me a little bit.
And not having a shovel.
But I may be mowing. I hope not, although I do love to mow. I love it too much, that's right, you don't want me mowing.
Trish?
Gary, just in terms of those historic grants, the city staff has a lot of experience with that. They have a historic district and an historic review board. Christina Salzig might be your contact.
Yeah, I could ask her, if she knows, because they would have a finger on the pulse of it.
For grants, for sure.
Dave?
Yeah, I sent out an email today to all the legislators, I know ones that's never seen it, that recommending that we sit down and talk about a grant grant, full-time grant, which I believe we truly need. All you need is one grant to pay for a full-time grant for the whole year. So it's just a suggestion now, but I think we really got to discuss it.
All right, so we need to decide if this is gonna be, I mean, I'm assuming we're gonna have to do a new resolution with a new dollar.
I could do a resolution to amend 96-22.
So where do we wanna take the 50,000 from? Is it,
Do we have any building reserve?
is it,
Well, there's not that much in the contingency, I can tell you that. So it would probably come from the general fund, but that's up to your committee.
general fund or
It's up
ARPA?
to the full committee at the end.
What does everybody on this committee think?
I'd rather take it from ARPA than from someplace else.
Our building reserves.
Sorry, I'm not on the committee.
It's not.
We got $2 million in buildings. But that's up to the committee.
Yeah.
All right, who owns ARPA?
I would take that just we're thinking, I don't know if, you know, if we have Martin and Judas looking at this building, if it's just us looking at it, if it's, I hear that we've been spending a ton of money on it. I mean, this is only, you know, 1.5 for me, but we've been spending a ton of money on it. We ought to evaluate whether we should be keeping it or not.
Who wants building reserves?
My preference would be building reserves, because that's what they're there for. Do we have a building repair reserve?
There is still some in the building.
ARPA is so restricted that, you know, rather maintain the flexibility of the ARPA to utilize building reserve, we can only use on building reserves for buildings.
Yeah, the big building reserve, I'm told, is only for a new building or some major thing like that, not for nothing considered. At least that's what they say sometimes, and other times you can take it out of there, so I have to get legal's opinion on it.
Well, I was just gonna say, let's do this. You find out from those in the know where you think they should, you know, Lynn, whoever.
Okay.
And then write it up that way, and worst case scenario, gets amended.
Yep, you can always change it. Okay.
Gets amended to it.
That's what I'll talk to Lynn about it. I'll bring it to you that way. That's all I have for updates.
Andy, I got one question for Gary. Gary, our vendor for the building, do you know when they're gonna be done?
They haven't given me a firm date. They had said the end of May.
That's what I thought.
But I believe they're slightly behind based on questions that I answered for fairly recently. So I think they're.
Because they had a timetable for us.
Yeah, they had a timetable supposed to be the end of May.
Right.
But I'll be surprised if they're done by the end of May.
Right, thank you.
Hey, Trish?
Just to comment again with our, policy on the furniture and stuff that I would love to offer it to nonprofits after we go to the towns and villages before we go to public auction. I don't know if, that's something that we can consider or not, but,
The legislature could do that, but the policy that you have given me right now, if this is the direction I have. That's the policy. If you want to change the policy, or if you want to amend the policy for a one-time deal, a legislator can bring up a resolution at the floor.
or go through government option.
Well, if it goes to the auction and it doesn't sell, we're stuck with it, right?
If it goes to the auction, doesn't sell, we're stuck with it, in all likelihood, I'm going to send it to the scrappy.
But I don't have a problem with it going to nonprofits after it goes to the auction, but I think it needs to go to the auction first to see if it does sell.
If I may.
See, there
We
is a
would-
reason.
I have spoke with Chris regarding this, and we have been looking into the law on this. We believe it falls under the same situation in which we did last month with the surplus property for that one property that was being sold through the, they were looking through solar panels, the resolution that passed through. And it would have to go through a local law similar to that, but I would have to speak with them as if we change the policy, if it would switch with that, but essentially it would fall on the same path, so we can keep it the same way going to auction, and then if it ultimately doesn't sell at auction, do a local law giving it to a non-profit.
So changing it would have to be local,
Going through the same similar process as
Okay.
last month.
so that works. If it goes to auction, it doesn't sell, and then a nonprofit wants it, we give it to them. And they don't have to go through the hoops of doing the local law.
We still have to change the policy.
Yeah, currently the policy's not in compliance with.
Well, that's their job.
So our office is working on, updating several policies.
Anybody else got anything for Gary? All right, thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
If I
Yeah.
may, before we get off parks, it looks like there were a couple of appointments for the Parks Commission. You might wanna go back to those.
Okay, well, we're going to parks now. So appointments, Joe DeForest, Leslie Parsons to the Parks Commission. Trish, second. Second, Christina. Any concerns or questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now we will go to parks. Doug,
All right, thank you.
with the snow blower.
Oh my God. Sorry, can't do anything right.
I have my report was in front of you. I had a couple of notes I just wanted to share. We are opening as far as we're having staff this weekend. We're starting to staff our ticket booth, though we're not charging for passenger cars. We'll start charging for boat launching fees. We have a lot of fees also coming in from a lot of rentals. We have a very busy summer program coming up, both from our partners. Little League is already playing. We've got quite a bit of our normal programming from previous years prior to 2020 is back on the calendar, so we're excited about that. Obviously, we're trying to fill positions. I did have some logos and a presentation to show, but I didn't send those out because I didn't know how we would have technology here or not at this time. So I'll send a deck of those out so everybody can just review those. So we did a logo rebrand, which is a rebrand for the department and also for each one of the properties. So there's a new logo specifically for each of the Emerson Park, the Alaska Flats, the Sterling Nature Center, as well as just for trails that would go on the trailhead markers that we have. We have spoken to the Ag Commission and they would like us to rebrand the Fort O'Hara logo to be another one of those sub-brands to the Parks Department. So we're able to do all of that and we will bring theirs up to speed and probably have something for their board to approve in June as far as the rebranding goes. So we're happy to have that stuff ready for the summer. Advertising, programming, we do apparel for staff. We fill about 50% of our staffing for the summer. Laborers are always the hardest ones to fill, as everyone has already said. I don't need to repeat probably that, but that covers quite a few of our positions within the park. So as far as redevelopment, I've been working with Steve on phasing documentation so that we can go forward with several different, we've put all of the items on the island redevelopment into a couple different buckets, so we can fund them separately or together. We've started some of those asks and looking for some partners to actually make some of those asks and do some development for that. So we're moving forward with that. The Easter egg hunt was snowing and 29 degrees, and we had probably 500 to 700 kids roaming around the yard. They did not leave a single egg left. We were thinking that I was going to have to send Gary out with a shovel to get them out of the lawn afterwards, but they picked up all of them. So it was really great. And the friends did a tremendous job bringing in some volunteers, helping us set it up, getting eggs filled and everything. So it has been very helpful to us to have the friends involved with the park, with not only with the cleanup that we did this past weekend, but all the other events, and they're helping us with the summer programming.
Your snow blower would have ground them up.
It would have. It looked like snow coming out probably too, but the replacement of the island wall is completed. We're actually doing some. Soil and Water was doing some of the rehab of the site today. It's finally dried out up there enough to get that all cleared and then we'll reseed. We're quoting the island shelter removal. We've had a couple of folks who have been a little bit reticent to rent it. It's getting a little shorter than it used to be. It is in need of replacement. The design for the island has a new location for it. We also have the grant that was responsible for doing the roadways on the island is still open, so there are still some funds in there that can be expended to make some of that happen and close that grant out so we can apply for another grant. So we've gotten some quotes in and we're looking at what it would take to actually take that down. The timing of that, when it happens, all is a little bit dependent on when we need to close grants out. And Steve and I are actually working on some of that this week to do that. So there's a couple of opportunities there. Some of which you'll see in resolution form next month after we work through what that looks like, so we'll get some idea what that costs and what the replacement is and how we move through that process. We started the renewal of the Rev Theater contract. That was a 23-year contract. I don't know if we talked about that last time. It was 23 years. Kind of an interesting number. That's up at the end of this year, so we're in the process of starting to renegotiate the contract with them. They obviously want to continue their relationship, but our contract's going to expire. Both Tim and Jim had extensive notes in there about ongoing programming that they have underway, some construction. Up at the Nature Center, we've actually poured foundation walls, footers. We'll begin to pour slab in a couple months too. A lot of site work has been completed there, so new access roads to the area. We've started to lift the parking lot. A lot of that has to do with the green infrastructure that will be in place. And we're continuing to work with Beardsley Design to close the loop on some new boardwalks and some rehabilitation of McIntyre Road and some other more resiliency geared programs that were part of the Ready grants that we had out there. Jim's had just tremendous participation in all the programs through his social media. There's a listing of his programming there. And then since we did pass, and I appreciate the support of passing the resolution last month to close the loop on the funding for Bridge A, Contact has been contacted. We're in their production schedule now, and they'll be able to hit our target date, which was, we gave them the first couple weeks of October. That would be the best time for both for soil and water and for conditions to get that last bridge in that section in. We're working with Daily Farm next door there to close the loop on the trail access north of that bridge, which doesn't currently exist. So we have some right of ways there that we'll make some connections on and make some minor adjustments to property transfers at some point to close the loop all the way up to the village of Cayuga. So those are in process at this point too. I think that's maybe it.
Any questions for Doug? Jim?
Just if you get an opportunity, some of these projects that we have going on.
Yeah.
If one or two photos. that you
I actually-
send out to the legislature.
I do have one, and I had a presentation prepared for tonight, but I didn't know what, like I said, what kind of technology we have, so I didn't send it off. So I have been taking, and we've been taking progress pictures on
Right.
the West.
Yeah.
The island, the work that Soil and Water did for the sluiceway, for example, and then some pictures of the Sterling Dam. So I do have one prepared.
On this rebranding that you're talking about, that each place, what's gonna link them all together to Cayuga County?
So what it has is, there's a new Cayuga County Parks and Trails brand, if you will. And then what happens is everyone has like if you can imagine a badge, like I can show you one, I have one here. There's a badge that goes along with it, and on the bottom of all of those, or if it were to be signage, you'd have the Sterling Nature Center, and then it says Cayuga County Parks and Trails Department down below it, so they're always gonna be linked. The orientation changes, but there's always, where you have one of the logos for a specific property, you also have the Parks and Trails Department logo attached to it. Does that make sense? Does that help?
I understand what you're saying, and just was wondering, a lot of times when companies and businesses and so forth rebrand, they rebrand with one significant part of the brand, so even if you didn't see anything else, you would know that's Cayuga County Parks and.
Sure.
You know, and it's either part of the it's like Campbell Soup.
So that's the logo, so that's the Parks and Trails Department logo. And so what we were able to do is we'll take that, and that can be standalone, or you can take it as a part of a badge, which would be something like this. So this would be one for the trails, and the trails has a logo, and then it absorbs the Parks and Trails Department in all of the ones that are available to. And it also gives us, like, we're gonna take the Ward O'Hara Agricultural Museum one and do a similar one for that, so they all have at least a similar outline and design, but we always wanna make sure that you're recognizing that it is a part of the Cayuga County Parks and Trails Department too, so they're not separate. That makes sense?
It does. I'm just, Campbell Soup, it's just a matter of which soup you're picking.
Right,
You know?
it's always there.
It's
And
always
so
there.
what other Parks and Trails Department I've seen do is, even if they have very dissimilar location logos, they'll actually have separate signage that has their, Cayuga County Parks and Trails Department signage on all of them.
All right, Trish, we've had enough soup discussion.
It all comes to an expense when we start making different signs for each.
Two questions. One is the lifeguard situation, and where are we at with that? Are we doing any training or things like that?
So we haven't put out a call to do training or pay for training ourselves, although we were happy to do so. I did reach out to the Y. They made the same ask, both in February of any of their previous staff and current staff. Got 2, I think, to take on the training for this coming season. We've only had 1 application. I probably need 5 to open beaches, to be honest with you, to make any kind of real open hours based on rotations and how long people can work and having some consistent hours. So at this point, I'm still putting in beach permits and applications to do that, but I obviously can't open beaches with 1 lifeguard. And we had the job fair actually this weekend, we were trying to canvas too, but.
Have we promoted anything around like paid training
No.
for that or? And when do we typically open those budgets?
It actually depends on who was coming. If it were heavier on college students, it was earlier. If it were heavier on high school and local, it was a little bit later depending on their school schedules. Obviously, the goal would be open many years by Father's Day, if not earlier if we had the staff.
And how long does the training usually last, or like how long does that take?
Recertifications take 8 to 10 hours of training, usually cost $350 to $400. New certifications usually take several weeks. Yeah. Of, you know, I guess if you did it intensively with some folks, it's 30 hours of training, something like that.
I just wonder if we should market that maybe that we would pay for the training or, I don't know, something to ramp up.
Yeah.
Before we get into the season.
I was a little reticent to look into it right away because why couldn't do it if they already had a pipeline of individuals
Yeah,
who they
sure.
were looking for it. I wasn't sure whether we would be able to do it. They actually asked us if we wanted to participate. I said, sure, we'll send people to you if we had to pay for the training, and we didn't get any applications.
My other question, with the logos, are you guys thinking long-term? Like I would buy t-shirt, hat, all kinds of stuff with those logos.
Yes, so
To make money.
We have those and we can license those like to friends in there and they would be able to sell some merchandise for them. We're probably not the best ones to buy merch and sell that, or it's not really in our wheelhouse as far as a purchasing / sales model. But we would be able to do that through another organization and have some of that money eventually. It's money that the friends are raising. Some of that money goes back to support efforts of the park, so. But yeah, we definitely have mock-ups of hats and shirts and tattoos, you know.
Thanks, Doug.
Who do you have make that stuff?
Who would produce the merchandise?
Yeah.
If we didn't do it, it would be up to the friends. We have our apparel and stuff done at the printer in Auburn. So like for our staff, we do our logo over.
Anybody else got anything for Doug? No? All right, thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thank you.
Brian?
One thing I'd like to add in my report is, it seems like there's been lots of rumors about the motor pool and retirements, and if it's gonna disappear and all that, so I just thought that we probably should discuss that, whether I was gonna actually wait another month, but to get things cleared up, I think we should talk about it a bit tonight. So the situation with motor pool is. That's right.
Can you move that, please? No, whatever's between the two of you.
Me?
Yes,
Right here, or?
what is that? Yeah, oh, no, it's you, thank you very much. I was going to.
So the motor pool, the way it exists right now is we have 2 full-time employees working in the motor pool. And the issue that I have with the way it's operating right now is it's the most inefficient part of the highway department. And to demonstrate that, I pulled a report today from January 1st to April 1st, we have only billed out 285 hours out of 640 hours worked. I thought it was like, when I looked at it a year ago and we started talking about it a little bit, I thought maybe COVID was some of the issue. But we went back 10 years and it's pretty much the same trend. It's been that way that long. There's just not that much work throughout the entire county to justify the motor pool to exist the way it does today. So there's options, obviously. Last year, we talked a little bit around budget time about privatizing the motor pool, putting an RFP out, seeing if a local shop wanted to pick up the work at a contracted price. That option seems pretty viable till we start talking about where would you store all the vehicles when they're not being used. Currently, they sit at the city lot where they merged the DPWs back 5 years ago, motor pools, sorry. Highway doesn't have the space anymore that we had before because we leased it out to the sewer authority. So we couldn't move vehicles back to highway if we privatized them. So that's the hiccup with privatizing. Another option is we can cut down to one employee. Like I said, both of them are gonna retire within the next 12 months. I don't have a definitive date on either one yet. One might be as soon as June. But we can obviously cover the workload with the one employee if that does happen. Another option is finish the merger in the city. They moved them there 5 years ago. Let's finish the merger.
Okay.
And the city, from what I understand, by a certain for mechanics too, aren't they? Do you know that? I got with the city last week and they said they're.
I know they have 2 mechanics on staff. But we're in their building now.
Right.
If they were still at highway, it'd be a simpler solution.
Mhm.
We could just put a mechanic on the hours we need to cover it and then bring them into the highway shop and have them work there. But we're across town now. We don't have that, really that option. I am going to move one of the employees to highway, whether they retire or not, in the near future. As soon as the other one gets off his vacations, we're gonna drop down to one employee at motor.
Thank you. Have you talked to Janine Wilson about this? I mean, is she aware of this? Because when she and I spoke a while back, she was concerned about maybe her support going away for their vehicles.
No, I haven't talked. The only department I've talked to is Gary and Doug have talked to me about it.
And I don't know if that'll make a difference, but I do know that she was concerned about not having, once, I guess there's a motor pool building that is an issue. She was concerned about that and.
She currently leases the motor pool building at Highway from the county for the sewer authority.
So she's concerned about that going away. She doesn't want it to. And she did talk about being concerned that her vehicles will not be maintained. I don't know if it's because of the building on Genesee Street by McDonald's.
Her vehicles are serviced by the motor pool currently, as well as all department heads, or all departments, internal departments, and, you have the SCAT band and CAP and all those entities.
So that.
But either way, there's still gonna be a motor pool. There has to be a motor pool of some sort. It's just how do we want to structure it?
Yeah, so whatever happens, the vehicles are still
Yeah,
taken
nothing,
care
as
of.
far as vehicles being changed or serviced, it's not gonna change that.
It's just whether we go
what
to the
method.
city, privatize.
Currently, right now, we're basically throwing 75% of their pay out the window.
Right.
And to me, that just doesn't make sense, when I'm struggling to have enough mechanics to keep our trucks going. So,
Thank you.
George?
I know you're new in your position, but I didn't know if you had some history there with what happened with the merger with the city.
No, I have no knowledge of it. I just know it was 5 years ago, the stories that have been told to me, and I use the word stories because a lot of it's spoken over our they did the merger with the intent that they were gonna build a new building at Highway and bring the city garage over there. Is the story I've been told. But if that's true or not, I don't know. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Right. And it just never happened. They moved them over there, out of sight, out of mind, and that's where they've been since.
Right, if we privatize it, or even to take it to the city, what about the SCAT van and those type vehicles? They have to find their own maintenance then?
No, I would think that the city, if the city's willing to pick, I mean, we're.
But what if we privatize? What would happen to those vehicles? The county vehicles would be paid for naturally by the county. But what about those type vehicles? Would they still be county vehicles that would go to privatization?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they would be covered under the contract.
all right, thank you.
So I guess what we need from you then is to look into the privatized part. You're gonna have to talk with different garages or whatever that would.
Yeah, purchase, and Don and I have already talked a little bit about it. And the biggest issue is the timeline. Do we want to, start today and get this all in motion and then wind up 2 gentlemen are retiring and end their careers a month before the retirement? Or do we wait for them to retire, make sure we time it right so everybody, we're not removing 2 guys or a month from retirement, that's,
Problem with waiting is what happens when then they retire and they got nobody.
well, I need direction from you as far as what you want me to do. If we want to continue on, one employee can handle it. But do we want to try to do the merger with the city is what, I mean, I feel the city option is the best. They've got the parking space because they're using it now.
I agree, but I mean, if they don't want to though, then what do we do? So
Right.
maybe look into both options.
Okay.
Look into the city.
Yeah, I'll get
look into
done
private
working on the
citizens.
RFP for it.
'Cause if one doesn't work, then the other one. And if both don't work, then we're stuck like.
And it's an
Jerry,
interesting
trying to
thing too, because currently we're not under contract with anybody. The contract's expired in 2014. So the labor rate that we're billing out is from 2014. That isn't caught up with,
We're right on top of things, what you say. Trish?
I guess I would. Did you say my name?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know where around. I would love to see where the conversation goes with the city.
that's perfect, because I don't feel it's really my job to talk to them, so have fun talking to them.
I'd be happy to have.
I really think it should be somebody from the I can't negotiate with the city, that's somebody else's job.
I would also add that, there may be shared services opportunities depending on what we're talking about.
I believe that's how this all started,
Yeah.
with shared services, and it just kind of fell apart.
And you want me to set up a meeting with Jeff Dygert? With the head of their, highway in Brian?
Yeah.
And see where we are?
Sure.
They may just say no right away.
Right.
Or we may, get somewhere.
Well, I mean,
You want me to
those are,
do that?
oh, yeah, because that's our two options, either the city or privatization. And if those two options take a crap, then
Okay.
these two guys retire, we're stuck trying to find at least one person to
Right.
run our motor pool.
And, unfortunately in this world these days, it is tough to fill those type of positions. And last month I had my engineering tech resolution and I still haven't received an application yet, so. We're working with all of those, so.
I'll let you know when I get to meetings.
Sure.
Thank you.
We have resolution.
Yes. The first PW1 is, it's a housekeeping. EVO is the system that we have to use for our federally and state funded projects where they track us and make sure we're paying our contractors and that the contractors are meeting their goals to the minorities.
Resolution. Motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Hans. Any questions? Trish?
Is there a cost?
No.
And is it cloud-based? Or is it on your desktop?
Desktop.
90s.
Yes. Right now, we just don't have authorization to use it because Rich Willing, who retired, was the authorized user when there was no pavement in highway.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, PW2.
PW2 is accepting in the additional CHIPS funding and the new Pave Our Potholes program that the governor put in our budget.
That's a no-brainer. Motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second, Jim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't know why you would be. PW3.
PW3 is authorizing the chair to sign the agreement with Hybrid Solutions for the salt shed that you gave me the ARPA funds for last month.
Motion.
Move it.
Second.
I'll second.
Christina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anything else, Brian?
Nope, that's all I have.
Anybody got anything else for Brian? No?
No.
All right. If not,
Motion.
motion to adjourn. Hans, second. Second, Trish, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Otherwise, I don't know why you would
I have another question.
be. You just know that nightmare, I gotta go home to, so. Alright, have fun at planning.
Yeah. Jim called me, texted me earlier and said he got to the house next door, but Amy just texted me and she said she's got Sam said he's got himself, so I'm not really sure which one it is.
Good luck.
Do people know that they can go by themselves?
I don't know that. That's what's point though. Everybody, there's a lot of food out there for everybody. Please feel free, it's for us. Thanks, Lydia, for that.
Yeah, my friend texted me earlier, he said that the house next door was on fire, but then, but Amy just messaged me and she said Sam just got home, and they were back home by it. So they said that the actual back home.
Closer. Oh, no, that's my next one, that's my neighbor.
Oh, yeah, I teach him, the older boys actually are now. Yeah, it's. I saw that as soon as you mentioned it, I said.
Oh, that's so good.
What did he think about it? Tell us about it. I was like, was that last month? I was like, my house, this is right there. Yeah. So I hope it's.
Welcome to Planning and Economic Development Committee. I'm your host, Amy McCann. This is a great room. I love being in here today. Can I thank Kelly for hosting today? And all the staff, thank you so much.
And the goodies.
So we're gonna get started with minutes to approve. Can I get a motion?
I'll move it. Christina.
In a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes?
Yeah, I'll vote yay.
Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's carried, thank you. There are no appointments, no presentations, and we're gonna begin with Kelly Kane and her report.
Well, I'm very excited about today. I said to someone, I feel like it's Thanksgiving because I haven't celebrated Thanksgiving in like 2 years. So here we all are at the Career Center. I'm very excited. We haven't had this much activity in a long time. Welcome. I can't take credit for the Taste of New York snacks. That was Dan Welch from Cornell Cooperative Extension. He made sure that he brought those snacks in. He took over, he'll probably talk about this, I don't want to go on your report, but he took over the Taste of New York store, so he brought those treats so everyone can kind of do a little sampling. I'm responsible for the BJ's treats. They are not as exciting, but they're sweet, so we've got that covered. Thank you again for being here. I know for some of you it's your first time. I'm going to bore you really quick with a little history of employment and training and who we are and where we kind of came from. When I talk to people, even in the department, in the county, they're like, employment and training, you know, who are you? What do you guys do? Like, are you a new department? So I hate to say this because it dates back, but in 1979, Ted Hurling, who was the long-standing county department head for employment and training, worked in the planning board. And in 1976. And then in 1979, he branched out from planning and he had developed and researched and obtained grants to develop the employment and training department. So in 1979, employment and training was created. And he had been the department head until 2012 when he retired. Many of us are long-standing employment and training staff. I feel like I'm I get all emotional because I asked my staff if they wanted to join us today. I'm missing one and we're actually adding another one. But I have Jim Albarisi in the back, Jamie Squares and Mary Church. They are I joke about this because we are a very small, intimate department, but we run a business, right? So you walked in and you see the Career Center, and ultimately we are responsible for this center, and it is a business. So we run a business on a very small, with a very small staff. They do a lot. They're very great. They're awesome. Mary Church has been here the longest since we had a retiree of 42 years. You come to employment and training like you don't get out. So Jim and I both started in 2003 when we, opened the doors here, and we've been here ever since. And Jamie's been here over 5 years now. Mary was my mentor. Mary trained me. Mary holds a special place. I don't want her to retire, so I'm trying to butter her up. But anyway, where has employment and training been? So when we started in 1979, we were in the 110 building in downtown. A lot of people don't know that. It's a little bit of history. From there, in 1986, I did ask our retiree of 42 years, by the way, for this information. I was not here, but in 1986, we went to the historic post office. And that is where my interview was in July of 2003. And then we cut the ribbon here in August of 2003, and here we are. So I never worked in those other locations. I've been here the whole time. Throughout the years under employment and training, we've always operated under some legislation. So it started out as CETA, which is I was still at Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, went to JTPA, WIA, and WIOA. So over the course of our legislation, it initially focused really on job seekers and job training, right? And then in 1998, I want to say, when WIA took over, and then in 2014, the focus was really how do we pair job seekers and businesses? So the focus became heavier on employers and business services. So here at the Career Center, we don't just serve job seekers, we serve businesses. So it's, the theory is bring all the partners together, create a system, and serve seekers, employers, and make nice matches, right? So we can strengthen the public workforce system. Working really hard to do that. And I would say within the last year, we've made a lot of steps towards doing that. So I'm proud of what we do here. I'm proud of my staff. I'm going to do a tour. You're welcome to join us for the tour at the end of this meeting. So you can kind of see, what everything looks like from front to back. So that's just kind of a little bit of history on employment and training and the Career Center. I'll go to my report quickly. Couple things I want to highlight. Mostly right now, we're focusing on our summer youth employment program. Jim serves our youth population. We are working on, essentially, I want everybody to be able to step in and know all of the programs. Jim is definitely the facilitator in youth. He's served the youth his whole career here. That's what he's always done. Our summer youth employment program starts essentially our funding is May to September. So we're really busy. It's a very short amount of time that we put 50 plus kids in work experiences, provide them with financial literacy education, get them in, get them experience, get them a paycheck, and then they go back to school typically because they're 14 to 20. So they're often in-school youth. We don't serve a lot of in-school youth because of our WIOA program has very specific eligibility and criteria and guidelines. Our summer program is income-based, so they can be in school. So that's something that we're busy with right now. Jim's been going into the schools. In the past, we kind of got away from getting into the schools. We want more of a presence in the schools. I think it's important for us to be seen. Jim's been going to lunch hours in all of the schools from the northern to the southern end of the county, which has been great. He participated in a career fair at the high school, and spoke to the BOCES class. So we're getting out there, we're doing recruitment. We have a lot of applications coming in for our youth program, more than we've ever seen before. So I'm proud that's one of our goals, and we're definitely reaching that. I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago for the Wednesday morning roundtable with Dr. Keiko Kimura from Cayuga Community College. Together we presented on, my portion was on trends and complications in the local labor market. I focused a lot on the labor shortage and why there's a labor shortage and kind of some myths and what, why that is and how we can address it. That's on YouTube. If you want to view that, you can. Hadn't presented in a couple of years since COVID. So that was nice. We used to go out and do a lot of presentations, and COVID changed things. So it was refreshing to get out and speak to a group of people again on what we do. And I'm pretty passionate about workforce. We did attend, we partnered with Emerson Park for the I Love My Park Day on Saturday. Jennifer Dial, who's missing from my crew, but she participated with me, and we promoted our programs, and we promoted all of the civil service jobs for the county. So not just for parks and trails, but we brought every job opening that civil service had, and we printed them, and we promoted them, and we talked about our programs. I look at it as a win. We didn't have a huge amount of people at our table, but we did talk to some youth, and we gave out some caseworker applications. One is better than none. So it was worth our time at Emerson Park. It was nice to be with another county department and collaborate. And it was a great experience. I think that's pretty much all I have. Everything else is in my report, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Yes.
Thank you. Where was, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but how did I miss the advertisement about you guys being there at the park?
So we advertised that on our Facebook page. We advertised that because it was the cleanup and I Love My Park, and they had a chicken barbecue. And so we put it on our Facebook page. We've been doing a lot of advertising on Facebook. We promoted it here. So yeah, we use Facebook for a lot of marketing, sure.
Any other questions?
Thank you for looking at it. So, you mentioned that you, and that you can watch it on YouTube, so you can send me that link. I'd like to
Sure.
see. I heard from someone's department head here about, you mentioned myth of something in the hiring process.
With the labor market, yeah.
The labor market.
Yep.
Any 2 or 3 highlights you can give us to
Yeah.
separate those?
Sure, absolutely. So, and you know, and I said this in my presentation, I was probably guilty of this. So if you think about trends and challenges in the local labor market, what I see as one of the biggest trends is the worker shortage and why. So we've all probably said this, well, everyone's soaking up unemployment insurance, right? There's all these extensions, stop giving them extensions and people will find a job. Stimulus checks, stop giving them stimulus checks, everyone will go back to work. That's not really true because the extensions and unemployment ended last September, right? And we haven't seen a huge, people aren't knocking down our doors looking for work. Employers are saying, I need people. What can you do for me? What kind of job fairs can you do? What can we do for retention and recruitment? Retention's big. Truly, what is happening in the labor market? Number one, when COVID hit, we had a lot of retirements and they're not job seekers anymore. So if you could retire and when COVID hit and you were eligible, people retired. They're not collecting unemployment. That's a myth. They retired, they chose to leave the labor market. There were a lot of baby boomers that retired. Second thing is a lot of people voluntarily quit their jobs, not soaking up the system and the benefits. And they truly had to quit their jobs for pressure. People were feeling stress of mandatory overtime because of the labor shortage. People had to quit their jobs because kids are home and they learned how to live and they learned how to do that and they valued that. We had a lot of voluntary people leave. We had again the retirements, career changers. It truly wasn't just the collecting of unemployment, or we would have seen a big shift in September of last year when all of the extensions ended. So there were a lot of reasons that people left the workforce. They have no plan to reenter. And that contributed to the shortage by far.
So one of the things we heard was people just don't want to work.
I don't, yeah.
Or is it, you just can't line the people up with their jobs?
I think that a lot of people's priorities changed based on COVID. I wouldn't say that people don't. I believe people want to work. I believe if people want to work, they can work. I think there's not as many job seekers looking for work. And I think people need flexibility. So that's one of the things that's keeping people back, right? So, I mean, I can share a personal story about myself is my husband works mandatory overtime. He could potentially work 75 or 80 hours a week. If I didn't have flexibility, it would be very hard for me to keep my job. And certain positions and if you work in manufacturing, you can't get off the line because your kid is home in a 10-day quarantine or when schools closed and went to hybrid. So I don't know that it's that people don't want to work. I think that for some people, the field they're trained in, they really can't do that work anymore. And, you know, we have a lot of people interested in going back to school, career changers, because they needed flexibility. So there's a lot of variables. I can't really answer if they don't want to work, but there's a lot of reasons why people are not working. Yeah, absolutely.
And then Maggie.
I was just curious what your experience has been with employers offering more flexibility and hybrid options for workers as an opportunity to attract those short, fill those gaps and attract workforce.
I can say that that's the problem. Employers don't really want to be overly flexible, and job seekers need the flexibility. So that is a complication. I think employers are starting to learn that they have to be more flexible in order to keep their workforce. But truly, some sectors and industries don't have that ability based on the type of work that they do. Employers are starting to bend, and I talk to employers every day. And the thing is that a lot of employers are paying their employees wages that are hard to live on, and people that have costs of daycare will weigh that, and then they choose to not work. Employers need to become a little more flexible, and I think some are that can be, and some just can't be with the type of work it is.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate your expertise. I'm wondering if, as you're working through this and looking at trends, is there any sign of an upward trend at all toward finding a workforce? Or are we at a stalemate with high needs and low workforce available?
I think that it's a good question, and it's from my observation and from the way I'm seeing things. I think that employers have changed their way of business almost to make it work with the workforce that they're able to get. Employers have adjusted hours. I think that they are dealing with the way the workforce is right now. So it feels like it's improving, but I don't know that it's truly improving because I don't think we're at where we were. We're definitely not where we were. And I think that, I'm hoping we're moving towards that, but I think that they've had to kind of compromise their business to make it work so that it's kind of leveled out. The employers aren't quite as desperate as they were early on. I think more people are going back to work. I think a lot of people are being retrained and entering in, but I would say that there's been a compromise on the employer side to make it kind of a level playing field. Yes.
Kelly, do you have a program? If I were an employer locally, I'd be coming to you and saying, Kelly, what can we do here? Do you have that type of thing happening here?
I do. Employers reach out to me all the time. They come in and they meet with me. Yes, and back maybe even pre-pandemic when there was plentiful jobs, we were referring people to the same jobs, and it was hard for them because there weren't that many. We had a ton of job seekers. Now, employers are the ones looking to me more than the job seekers, with all of their job openings and with their struggles. I work very closely, Mary and myself work very closely with the Commons. They have really been struggling, and we were working on a targeted job fair. They decided to start doing open interviews every week. And literally they're bringing in, I joke about this taco thing, I probably shouldn't even bring it up, but literally bringing food and bringing things in to get people in. So you can say, this is what we do here. Look how nice it is to work here. We have to get people in so they can see, and employers are desperate. I've been talking to employers about industry exposure, right? So some of the folks that we see, whether it be mandated customers that are either on public assistance or unemployment, which we're not seeing, they're not really coming through because they're not required to at this point in person. However, what we really want to do is show job seekers what businesses look like. So what I would like to do is video footage. So we can go around and we can do a tour of a business, right? We can video it because, I don't want to work in manufacturing. It's dirty or it's hot or it smells funny. I don't know, whatever. Well, it may not be the case. And sometimes job seekers just don't have that awareness. So if we do video footage, we can have it going on our TV in the front. We can play at our job clubs, and we can say, we're going to feature manufacturing this week, and we can show Owens, Illinois, and we can show Nucor Steel, and we can show, whatever. And we can do a healthcare week, and we can show video footage because we can't take them there. So now they can see what it looks like. And I think that's something that, that's something I want to work on because I think that it will help with exposure. They are seeking our help. Yes. One thing I wanted to say, I meant to say it in the beginning, it was on my note card. I'm very grateful for my approval of the ARPA funds. Thank you very much for the honoring my request for the $15,000 for laptops. when you came in, and I'll talk about it on the tour, but you could see there's state computers, desktops. They block sites. You can't go to certain, they think you're shopping because they're overseen and run by the state. This very room, we used to offer computer training. We do groups in here all the time. And if we have laptops, it makes them, number one, that we're skilling them up because you need technology. If you want to do a virtual interview and you want to do it not from your home, we can set you up in an interview room and you can use our laptop. So, and then computer training, we can use that for. So I'm very happy, grateful. Thank you for honoring that request, and they will definitely be put to good use. My staff are happy, and I'm anxious to be able to offer those opportunities. So thank you.
Any other questions for Kelly? Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Okay, up next we have Steve Lynch.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be up here at the employment training. I told Kelly when I came in, I haven't been here in 2 years since pre-pandemic in this room over here. After serving on the Workforce Investment Board for, I don't know, 6, 7 years.
We have an open seat.
You all have my committee report. I don't really have that many updates. I can say over the next couple of weeks, my staff will be out in various communities. Next week, they'll be in Troop, Conquest, Sterling, and the town of Moravia next week. So moving all those projects forward. I will say that we did have the electronics event over at BOCES. As you read in my report, we had over almost 500 cars come through in about 4 hours, 49,000 pounds of equipment. Dan was there. He actually took my neighbor's television for me and put it in the back of his truck. So that was really a very good, and I could say that in my report, I said we would look at our budget and see where we are for doing another one. We have to really wait and see how that fall household electronics event happens. But I believe we'll have enough money based on what this electronics event cost us within the budget that we have to have a second electronics event in, I think, September. We have a date set up, but we didn't pull the trigger on it yet. So we'll start working towards that as we go forward. I have a new planning staff member will be coming in on May 31st, right after the Labor Day weekend. And the first project that individual new planner out of the Sustainable Communities Program, Master's Program at SUNY Binghamton will be coming in. We'll be working on the local solid waste management program and updating that plan for the county. So looking forward to bringing that back up and working with the legislature as a body to reach out, to your communities and to get feedback from you as to how much involvement the county wants to do in the next 20 years going forward with solid waste and solid waste management. That's all I have. If there's no other questions, I do have one resolution. It's relatively routine.
Yes.
One question. Steve, I want to thank you for that meeting we had last week in my office about the solar project.
Yes.
How's it coming, right? The one at County House Road?
Yes. I think that the project's moving forward, and Doug gave some good feedback on things that you want to be looking at on a map that they talked about, changing the boundaries a little bit.
It's all fixed up then.
And I think those maps have come in, and I think they're going to be circulated around to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and I just want, it's something I said before, Steve, and I know we might not be able to do it this year with the electronics thing, but some kind of outreach to the north and south end of the county. If we can work on coordinating something, we can collect ours a day in advance or something.
Yep.
And then haul them down here.
And I think that's the kind of feedback, Jim, that we really want from the rest of the legislators. Like, okay, if we're, do we want to budget for this? Do we want to have the opportunity to pick up transfer opportunities at different parts of the county for the residents of the county?
Or the towns participate by bringing it to you.
Right.
Just that there's a mechanism for that.
Right.
If I can fill up a trailer or something, when I say trailer, totally not a trailer.
Right.
With local resident stuff. How does that work?
Right.
What would we have?
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. The only other thing I would add, and you'll hear from Brad Boswell, the new CETA Executive Director, that I've had the pleasure of having a number of conversations with him already. And I've just offered that the planning department has a lot of history in some of the stuff that has happened before with the IDA, the Aurelius Business Park, et cetera. So as he's matriculating into this new position, we've been having a number of conversations and, offering any assistance in any background that's needed to help smooth the way forward. So the resolution is relatively straightforward, authorizing us to submit grant application materials to the DOT, which they will in turn take from the DOT Region 3 communities and put together into one grant application for federal money for these corridor plans. So,
Can we get a motion for this?
yeah, no money on it.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Anybody have any questions or? Need to overview? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's carried, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Please, sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. I had a group of folks from the town of Truro contact me. And I don't know if this is something that should be brought up with you or if it's something that should be, this is regarding the comprehensive plan. But some of the unsettling thoughts were about the first two comprehensive plan meetings, postcards were sent out. The big meeting is happening on the 18th, as you know, and it's been radio silence, so people aren't being notified like they were for the first two meetings. So they believe that people are waiting for the postcards, so they won't show up. And another concern that they mentioned was the town folks really don't have a say in it. It was explained in a comprehensive plan meeting or at one of the town board meetings that the people can come in and vote and the board members can decide to just completely ignore what the town thinks. And there's nothing, the town members can't even come to the county and say anything about it. It's essentially the town board members' decision.
Well, thanks for your feedback. Oh, I'm totally aware of the conversations that have gone on.
Okay, so you've heard too.
Yep, we've had, there's been lots of communication back and forth with Supervisor Ridley. And I think generally, I think we try to be as open and transparent as possible. I think when you get to the later stages, meetings are set up that are town board meetings where it's their responsibility to take the action at those meetings. We don't really play as much of a role as, we've done our work and here's what has come together for this community. And that's the venue at which people can go and voice their comments, concerns, et cetera. It's not a done deal at that point. If the town board says to our staff, as people preparing the document on behalf of the town, we'd like to make these changes. We'd like to see these changes happen. We say, okay, we'll make those changes. So that's, we try as much as we can to be as transparent as possible. I think, the early initial meetings, we're trying to gather as much information, sending out the postcards, et cetera.
And I was remiss in saying how your people did an amazing job there.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And we have a team there. We have a relatively new planner working with a seasoned planner who, now has, the new planner is now ready to go out on their own, hopefully with some new communities.
And they did an amazing job.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the staff. And I will share tomorrow morning with my staff that, we had this conversation here today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, up next, I would like to invite the new CEO of CETA to come on up and introduce himself.
I'd be glad to. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks so much for coming today.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a little embarrassed that there are no updates, but I want you to know this is my 10th day on the job. So I'm developing a quiet confidence in what it is that I think I know and where I can be helpful as I ease myself into this role. As Steve mentioned, I have been on the phone and he has provided an enormous amount of information and guidance for me. As you are well aware, I wish I could provide you more information on a lot of the things we're working about, but I don't know all the bells and whistles and I don't know everything that's going on. So to speak prematurely on some of the things that are going on would only get me in more trouble, I think, in the long run. And I certainly don't want to start off on a bad foot. I'm smart enough and been doing this long enough to not say anything before I say the wrong thing. Not that I haven't said the wrong thing, mind you, but with age and with wisdom in this business, I learned to be cautionary. And I think it's great. The people that I've met, the staff that I have, and the people that I've met in the community are so involved. You are one of the most involved communities. And I want to say, I used to work in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And any academic community is always over involved and they're super involved. And I really appreciate, not that this isn't an academic community, but it's completely different than a university community. But the people's input and the people's commitment, whatever the issue is it alcohol? Is it drugs? Is it theater? I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed in a good way that everybody wants. When you talk about building a sustainable community, you're talking about all parts of this community being sustainable. And that's a wonderful thing. I will be engaged on the workforce side because as you heard today, a lot of things were going through my mind when Kelly was trying to answer that question. She did a wonderful job, but there's so much more. There's so much depth to the workforce issue in the United States today. It is, in my humble opinion, is the #1 biggest issue in our economy. Absolutely no doubt. And it doesn't matter where you go, it's the same question and the same lack of answers and how we get there. But something I did want to add is how you try to resolve this question is in a multitude of ways. Not just reaching out to the workforce you have, but developing a workforce you want to have. Meaning broadband. It's essential from this point on into the next 20 years that we have more broadband coverage because more people are working from home. One of the reasons why you're losing workforce is many people, now that their businesses say, well, we want you to come back in the office. People got comfortable over the last 2 years with how they work from home. And they tell themselves, I've got the education and capacity to work from home. I'm withdrawing myself from the workforce and I'm going to wait for those opportunities. And we have to be prepared with those companies when that capital is attracted to those opportunities that we have the community assets to do that. And we have, capital is attracted by your community assets. Capital is attracted to your sustainability. Capital is attracted to all these things in today's marketplace. So that's why it's completely important to work with workforce and everything you have because you don't know what attracts that capital. I'll give you an example. I was on the Eastern Shore in Maryland in a little county and I moved a fire extinguisher company to Dorchester County because he liked to sail. So I appealed to him at the Chesapeake Bay and I appealed to him, we have a building for you and you can do all this. And you never know what will appeal to that interest in that capital. So the more broad-based your program is, the more you understand, the more you have an opportunity to work for, attract that capital. So when we move forward in the agency, we're going to move forward more broad-based in understanding. Not only do we value agriculture, not only do we value manufacturing, but where can we go for the next 10 and 20 years? And what assets do we have in place? Two, take the business from Rochester, take the business from Syracuse and put them into Cayuga County. So there's a lot going on here. Not only the structure of what we have and what we have to manage, but where we have to manage to. So I'm excited. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. It's what I've done for 35 years, a lot of different places, and had some great success. And I've also had failures. I'm going to be the first to stand up here and say that I've had a few of those too. I'd be glad if there's questions. I can't get too much into the core of things right now, but looking at me, if you have anything you want to say, I'd be glad to.
Has anything to add now? Otherwise, I mean, I'm sure next month you'll.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair.
I didn't forget you.
What was that? I know, you're awesome.
I didn't know, I was trying to see Hans.
I have to be careful.
Block him.
I have to be,
Tell me not to speak.
I have to be careful because he knows where I live, so.
So, it was interesting that came up. We've got 22 plus miles of broadband not installed throughout our county that we're missing the opportunity for those workers to either be part of the workforce through working from home, which we heard, if there's flexibility. I think we ought to take a good chunk of that ARPA money that's left and put it towards the broadband program.
The good news on this is, not to get involved in that, the good news is on the federal front, there's, I don't know how many billions of dollars that are coming into telecommunications and coming into underserved homes that can't afford telecom. There's a sizable amount doing it. So we've got to keep an eye on this. All of us have to keep an eye on this because of course it has to be a joint effort by everybody to work to say, how do we start to put fiber to different places? I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying what, where, why, but I know it's critically important to how we go forward in what we see ourselves in the next 2 decades. Because everything, as we all know, is technology-based. Not that we have to move everything to technology. We have to get a little piece of that pie because we have the assets to attract those people. We have the assets to attract that capital. We just have to systematically understand where we want to go and what we want to do. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, next is Doug Pierce.
All right, good evening, everybody.
Hey, Doug.
I can, it's not necessarily a district-related topic, but I can talk a little bit about the solar panel thing, just regards to every morning at 6:45 when I get into the office, I could hear the pounding of those posts and it doesn't stop all day. So just about those fields are full of posts at this point, and took a tour of the site late last week with the site managers. So it's moving along pretty fast. So a lot of pounding going on. That's all you hear all day. Pachink, 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 nonstop. Go out for lunch, go wherever. It's ongoing. So, but district related, it's construction season. We've just started out. We were able to finish the project to tie the nice egg line back in where it's going to go to the grid up at the public safety building. Did the hydro seeding today, so that's on the ground for the rain that's coming this weekend and the nice temperatures. So we had that done and they just got to pull the line and disconnect and reconnect nice egg. So that was a good project. Working with the guys up there. Got some grants in, deadline, the Ag 9 ones were due last week. We got 5 of those in, and then we have the next deadline's coming up is Monday for the climate resilient farming. I know at least of a couple proposals that are going to be going in for best management practices of reduced tillage and cover crops. So I think that one's just shy of $1 million that we're putting in. There's $8 million total for the grant. So there's that season, and then. Really, anybody that picked up or ordered trees from us, pickup is Friday, so don't forget about that. You can always get them, I guess, on Monday, but tree sale is coming along. And we're working on a big project right now in the town of Niles, doing some road ditch stabilization. It's right close to the Skinny Atlas Lake, so we're trying to help them. The town's been having trouble with the road for a while, so a few residents are looking to go permanent year-round, and it's a seasonal road essentially, and we're trying to help them out with some drainage issues. But other than that, things are rolling. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yes.
I don't know if this is the right person that I'm talking to, but guess what? They pointed me in your direction. In the town of Metz, we had a situation with the canal where there are fallen trees and things like that. And they've been pointed in several directions. I'm not going to tell you who told me to come talk to you, but they want to clean that up. It's not navigable, and it should be. And they've been told they can't. They've been told they have to. Are you the right person to talk to about that?
The residents were told not that they couldn't.
The town was told. The town was told that they can't do anything about it. The DEC said that's not my job. The town was told that it wasn't the county's problem. And essentially they're being told that they can't do anything about it, but nobody else is responsible either.
Yeah, DEC always says that because we get that a lot on other streams. Not necessarily the canal. Canal's a different animal just because of It's regulated by the state. So that'd be the organization to go through for any canal stuff. But we get it a lot on the Wasco Lake Outlet or the inlet or Dutch Hollow or insert any tributary stream, you name it here. What do? I got a tree down, it's blocking the channel. There's very limited places where the DEC will do that. One is from the village of Moravia down to the lake. That stretch right there, DEC is responsible for trees that fall in, keeping it open. Everything else falls on it's all on private land. And they can go in and dig it out as long as they don't disturb the bed or banks. So if they disturb the bed, the bottom of the channel, or the banks of the channel, they may need a permit depending upon the stream and whether it's a trout stream or not a trout stream. If you could just pick it out cleanly or cut it off and get it out without disturbing anything, they can go ahead and do that. But there's no overarching organization that actually goes in and cleans this stuff out, other than possibly the canal, because they have to maintain it for navigation. And
Okay, so your
traffic.
recommendation is, just
Call
to be
the
clear,
Canal Authority.
call the Canal Authority.
Yep.
Is that part of the New York State Tribune?
Yeah, I don't know if it is anymore. It just still, it bounced around there for a little while. It wasn't.
At least when I was sheriff, that was,
Right.
yeah. The thruway authorities in charge of it.
And I might have a number at my desk that I can look up.
Thank you,
Sure.
appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah, any other questions? Right, thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Don.
I'm sure you're thrilled with the weather.
Oh, it's awesome. It's a little dusty. I know it's gonna be terrible to say, but use a little bit of precipitation to knock down the dryness a little bit. At night, not when we're
Okay, lastly, we had, I'm sorry, not last. First, before we get to that, I have Dan Welch also from Cornell Cooperative Extension. Dan, we'll go through the tour, but you can explain that you're in this building as well. And thank you again for the treats. I'm sorry that I didn't thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, everyone. So like Aileen mentioned, we are being graciously hosted by Employment and Training while the building at 248 Grant Avenue is eventually renovated. So we've been here since last July, and we'll be here until we can move back to our former building on Grant Ave. So that's one of the reasons why I helped with the snacks this evening. The other thing was to highlight that we are now operating the Taste New York store that's at the Equal Rights Heritage Center in Auburn. And I've mentioned it before, but I probably haven't done a good job with the background on that project. Taste New York is an initiative of the state through the Department of Agriculture and Markets. And there's stores now throughout the state. About 75% of them are run by the different extension associations in those areas. And there's a whole variety to these stores. Some of them, my colleagues in Nassau County run one that's right on the Long Island Expressway at one of the rest stops. Same thing for my colleagues in Washington County, run one up on 87 just before Lake George, same kind of rest stop one. And then we have some of these that are in different locales, like here in downtown Auburn. So at this store, we do have products from across New York State. Everything that's sold in the Taste New York store has to be processed and packaged within New York State. And our store obviously has a lot of stuff from the Finger Lakes region. We're hoping to get more Cayuga County products in there as we go forward with that and use that as a venue to promote our agriculture sector and maybe some of the opportunities to grow food manufacturing and processing in the county. Just a few highlights. Our Master Gardener volunteers are back in the office 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. 3 days a week. Any of your homeowners in any of your districts that have questions about lawns, trees, shrubs, roses, can call them up and Master Gardeners will help them with best way to take care of any of those plants. We recently joined the South Central New York Regional Ag Team, thanks to funding from the county. One of the first projects they're working on in conjunction with us is monitoring alfalfa heights for first cutting hay. Sounds kind of routine, but first cutting hay crop sort of sets the tone for the rest of the year. And that's when a farmer gets most valuable nutrients out of it. So if they do a good job with that, that's less purchased grain that they need to feed their dairy cows. So then therefore less nutrients that we're importing into the system. Do want to take one moment to brag about one of my 4-H youth, Peyton Youngers from Venice, placed first in New York State Horse Bowl. And she'll be going to Louisville, Kentucky this fall to compete in National Horse Bowl. My SNAP Ed educator, Rebecca Crawford, continues to work closely with the food bank on food distribution sites in Auburn, Fort Byron, and Cato Meridian. While that situation or the food security situation probably isn't as bad as we saw it in 2020, there's still strong demand for that service, as a combination of some of these workforce challenges and now the impact that inflation has on family budgets. And then just real quick on our side, organizationally, we have hired a part-time 4-H educator as of Monday. She's going to be working to develop more partnerships with the schools in the county, and also focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math topics. So that's a little bit of a new direction for us to try to get some more youth and families engaged. We've hired a communications coordinator in the last month to help us tell our story better. And then this afternoon, our ag environment sustainability position was posted. So that individual, once we get them hired, will be working with farms, working probably closely with Doug's staff on what they can do to manage nutrients. Also, a little bit of that will be some adaptation to climate change, which is messing a little bit with growing seasons and precipitation patterns and all of that. So we're hopeful that we can get a good candidate for that position, hopefully in short order. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Daniel? Yes.
So you mentioned this New York store.
Yeah.
How is that promoted? As far as to the county, is there a website we go to, or is there?
So there's not a specific website for this store. The state does maintain a website for all the stores, and I have not memorized that yet, so I'll have to get that to you, Jim.
If you could, because
Yeah.
I mean, so many people are ordering online now.
Right.
Sometimes just a storefront is all you need. You really need the capacity to be online.
Yeah, and they during the pandemic, the team with Cooperative Extension in Sullivan County actually developed a web store that is accessible across the state, but the promotion, it hasn't been widely promoted yet. So, and we're looking to increase the promotion for this store. We do have to run things up to Albany, which takes a little bit of time sometimes, but
Just an opportunity.
Yeah.
I would hate to see us miss.
Yeah.
With the number of people that shop online.
Yeah. Good point.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
I saw the junior master gardener
Yeah.
program listed. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, our, for a long time, we've helped Booker T. Washington maintain, a community garden for their after-school and summer youth programs. The focus has been, usually we go into a little bit of growing, but the focus has really been through our nutrition program. Hey, we grew this stuff, now let's get it into the kitchen, we'll show you how to eat a healthy meal or a healthy snack with it. The idea with the Junior Master Gardener program is to give them more in-depth skills and some of the science behind botany, the horticulture, how we're growing this stuff. And then hopefully they're bringing that home is the idea. And eventually we're hoping we can get, a cadre of maybe when they're, more in that, more teenagers that maybe we can then use their skills to develop some other gardens in the city. That's kind of the long-term plan of that, so, yeah. Yeah, so there's a curriculum that we use from National 4-H, I forget which university developed it, but goes through a whole bunch of little activities for them, and it's the curriculum for the early elementary grades, and then I think it goes like 6 to 9, and then there's something for 10 through 12.
Thanks. Any other questions for Dan?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Is Kara Cool on the line tonight?
It's her busy season.
She may not be, and she may have sent me something, so I don't have my computer with me. So you have her report there. Maybe she did mention she wouldn't be there. All right, so we, at this point, we can conclude the meeting. I think we hit everybody here and done the resolution. So without any other discussion, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I wasn't fast enough to say, I got something for Karen.
Kelly's gonna take us around to the center before we leave, right? So make sure you get.
Yeah.